how 5 minutes can help you unlock your hips and play better golf. In just 5 minutes, we are going to combine 3 movements that are going to allow you to connect the upper and lower body, one of the key functions of the hips, the pelvis area in the swing. We get power from the ground, we drive it through the big muscles in the legs, then we transfer it to the torso, the extremities, and the club head. So we're going to create that freedom and that separation. We're then going to move into the joint itself, into the hip, how as we load, we rotate and create freedom for all ranges of motion. In part 3, we're going to create more access to the posterior chain, the glutes, the hamstrings, the big muscles on the back side of our body that power so much of our swing. If the hips are flexible, active, and allow function of the posterior chain, we're going to have better posture, better ball striking, and therefore more consistency and power for your game. So how does the 3-step help your golf swing? Number 1 is that hip flexor. If this is tight, the glute is going to be weak, and one of the biggest problems golfers always have is early extension. That means you lose your posture, you come down into the ball, this can't handle it, that's too weak, we stand up, and that means we lose our power, we push the club out, and the ball can pretty much go anywhere, okay? So once the glutes are functioning, once you've opened up that rotation with the 3-step, we have the ability to work through the hip, load into the glute without restriction, and then because of that, we're going to sequence down better, we're going to be able to hold our posture and our neutral spine much more effectively, and that means we can get to the club, to the ball, in a pretty similar place for impact time after time. And that means our body is delivering more consistency in our ball striking. And once you start to really fire the hips, the glutes are where the power comes from, without restriction on the front, we're making progress. Movement number 1 is the 3-step hip opener. You're going to come down into split stance kneeling position, and we're going to work into this lead hip here. Place the club out in front to keep your balance and neutral spine, so we're not losing that posture. Again, very important for your swing. And we're going to take a lunge forwards first of all. So here, we're getting that back hip flexor, just working that out and trying to create some freedom, some range of motion. Hold that end range for between 5 to 10 seconds, step back to center, and then out to 45. There, we add in some movement of the hip, we add in some rotation, we're opening out, getting onto the inside of the leg, and getting a nice deep stretch in there. Again, 5 to 10 seconds, bring it back to center, and then we're going out to 90. Here, you're really going to get into that hip capsule, we're working sideways, we're holding into that position, roughly around the same amount of time, back to center, back to 45, get deeper each time, try and get that 5-second hold, and be aware as you do so, that each time you're going to go that little bit deeper into the range of motion, get a little bit more stretch in the muscle, the connective tissue in there, and focus on that breathing. The position of your body, how you work the muscle, how you work the stretch, and then continue to be dynamic as that range of motion improves, and of course, work both sides. Movement 2, hip 90-90s. Here, you're going to have one knee starting on the outside, one on the inside, and the feet are going to stay anchored to the ground. Have your hands on the ground for assistance if necessary. If not, and you got good hip mobility, take those hands off. But from here, with the feet staying where they are, you're going to rotate over, change knees, outside, inside, trying to keep the torso forwards and up, so you're really working the hip and not just leaning into the stretch, and be relatively dynamic here. Make sure the feet stay in touch with the ground. The hips are really opening up through this movement. We're getting all the way down into the lower body. Nice bit of lumbar spine going on too. And this is just opening up the hip capsule, especially after the 3-step. It's going to give you incredible range of motion and the ability to rotate and load into your hips as soon as you get into your swing. Movement 3 is a split stance good morning. This is where we get into the posterior chain, specifically the hamstrings and the glutes, the big muscles on the back of your leg. You're going to get a club on your shoulders to maintain your neutral spine. You're going to go into a split stance position, and with that back leg bent and a very slight bend of the front leg, you're going to work down into your good morning. That lead leg is going to straighten just enough to stretch the hamstring, and then we fire the glute to stand back up. All right, so hinging backwards, maintaining a neutral spine, feeling the hamstring, feeling the glute, and then standing up with a dynamic extension of the hip. Basically, you're going to clench your buttocks and stand up tall. All right, so hinging down, neutral spine, find that point where we're getting to the end range of motion, and then stand it up. All right, so we got single leg here because it's going to highlight any imbalances, which a lot of golfers struggle with. Also allows us to get into the specifics of our swing when we start loading into the right, unloading, and working through the ball. So again, hinge, fire the hips, and then unlock the movement you need for a better golf swing. One of the most important aspects of your golf swing is hip rotation, and that's where the 1990s really come in. You got external, you got internal. As you work through, both sides need to be able to deliver these movement patterns if you want to be consistent and hit the ball as well as you can do. Okay, so when we see that rotation, we also want to make sure our pelvis stays within our base of support. That's going to be our feet. So as soon as we get lateral, we're not rotating the hips, we're moving the spine. That's not a good position to be in. So what we want to see is that as we turn through, the hips are going to rotate. We're going to load into the inside of our heels. So as we go back, the trail hip works inside of that trail foot. We then load the glute. We can push out of the ground. We can hit that rotation. The lead hip is then going to work inside of the lead heel. And there you have a really solid rotation of the pelvis that helps you stay in a great spine angle, deliver speed, and use the legs into your swing. And when you do so, again, we're making progress. How to best use your 5 minutes of hip mobility. You're going to go 2 minutes of the 3-step hip opener. You're going to go 2 minutes on the 1990s, both times working through that range of motion and increasing your dynamic movement patterns, increasing speed a little too as you feel the freedom coming through. Then you're going to spend a minute on the good mornings, 30 seconds each side, really trying to fire the glute and using all of that mobility to increase your output. Appreciate you watching today's video. We are here to help all golfers improve their body so they can improve their game and feel better doing it. All right, so we appreciate the time. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, tell your friends, go ahead and get the Golf Wad app, and then we can all golf strong.